Here we are.
Here we are.
Another podcast
Mm-hmm.
where we are learning how to unlock our inner brain superpowers, training our brain to work for us, not against us. And today we're talking about the success journal. We've mentioned it in previous podcasts, and
Yes.
because of that, you started doing it.
I did.
So tell me about that.
Well, something that kind of happened to me is I started noticing that I was focusing on all the negatives that happened in my day, and what I wasn't doing instead of what I was doing. And it made me feel really down. But then when you write like the little small wins, like I brushed my teeth today, or
Yeah.
I made the bed,
Yeah.
just little things like that, it actually built so much more confidence
Yeah.
in myself, and I felt stronger.
Yeah.
And I also felt like I was focusing on all the positives about myself, and it made me motivated actually to get more done.
That's great. And you probably can notice a pattern of your strengths when you do a success journal.
See, I haven't done it long enough to see that, but now I'm going to look out for that for sure.
Start noticing that.
Okay.
You look back on your entries and you will see where your strengths are. There's a pattern there.
Like the consistency, or is it more like,
No, just your superpowers. What are you good at? What are the common success entries? And you can start to see threads and themes.
interesting?
Because you said earlier how people focus on their shortcomings.
I do that a lot.
Most people do that. And say, oh, I want to make myself better in this area and that area. And then they spend all their time working on how to make themselves better in their weaknesses. And they ignore their strengths, because we all have natural strengths. Some we're born with that we inherited genetically wiring in our brain from our ancestors, parents, and even before. Things can skip a generation or more. And then there's also, that's the nature. And then there's the nurture, where we acquire superpowers depending on how we're raised. And this is the case for people that are raised in awful situations and people that are raised in wonderful situations. And you would think that ideal situations, rich family, all that kind of stuff, then gives you more superpowers, but it's actually the opposite. It's the people who are raised in less than ideal circumstances that really have to struggle that end up getting amazing superpowers, but from the nurture side of the equation.
Well, I can see that, and the reasons why that would be is because when you struggle, that's where you grow.
Yeah.
Where it's hard and there's obstacles and you have to overcome and be a solution seeker. And it's really difficult to do that when you've been given everything
Yep.
and you've never really had to work for anything. And so when you go out into the world, and you have to fend for yourself,
Yep.
you're like, man, I just don't know how to problem solve. I don't know how to overcome anything.
Yeah.
And it almost like hinders you
Yeah.
in a way if you don't have parents. Because there are people that are wealthy that try to teach their kids lessons and things like that and make them work for what they like want. But a lot of the times that's the case where they don't struggle and they don't have obstacles. And so therefore they're kind of little snowflakes on the way out in the breeze, blowing around.
But have you ever noticed that
Yeah.
those people that are given everything have tons of drama in their life?
That's because
They
they're bored.
struggle. Yes, they
Yes.
create their struggles.
Yes.
They get on.
That's so interesting.
Yep. They get on drugs.
I never thought about it
go
like
into
you're
crime, and their
Yeah.
parents are like, "I've given you everything.
What's wrong with you?"
Why am I bailing you out of jail?"
I never thought about it like that. They're creating the struggle
Yep.
so that they can actually like figure things out and be problem solvers. Because
Yeah.
we're naturally problem solvers.
Yep.
That's what we're meant to do. So that's just so crazy.
And a child that isn't given any boundaries or disciplined will explore. Well, I need them. Human beings have to have boundaries. And if we don't have them, we're going to go out and find them. And it's going to be chaos. Yeah. And that's the way we're wired. Everyone is born that way for sure. And so people that think they're doing their kids a favor, oh my gosh, such a mistake. So struggles are real. The struggle is real. And we have to have those.
But it builds you.
That's
It
why we
builds
have to
you.
have those.
Yes.
Because just like plants, we want to grow.
Yeah.
We don't grow inside of our comfort zone, only outside of it. So if we can strive and work really hard and do all sorts of things and create good things, good struggles, or we're going to end up creating bad struggles. Either way, we're going to struggle. We have to, because of just our yearning and our drive to grow. That's the bottom line. Success journaling reminds you of the good things and your superpowers and your gifts and what you're good at. There's two schools of thought here. There's the school of thought like the Strength Finders author, which is a great test, and I recommend people do that. He says, forget your weaknesses, go with your strengths, and then you'll move forward a lot faster. Instead of holding yourself back by working on what you suck at, go with what you're good at. And this is what you can use the Success Journal as one of the ways you can use it, is to discover your strengths and then emphasize those. Say, all right, I can run now because I have these things and I'm just going to go for it. But the other reason for the Success Journal, and there's many, we're just touching on a couple, is to put your brain into a positive state of mind and a forward progress mentality. Because if people are focusing on their weaknesses, it's really hard to grow and to move forward with stuff. If they're focusing on their strengths, it's easier because their mindset is in the right place. If you define success as wealth, and then you look at the wealthiest people in the world, they surround themselves with people who are strong in their weaknesses. That's how they become wealthy. They don't work on their weaknesses. They're not trying to improve what they suck at. They're going with what they're good at, and they're hiring people to take care of what they suck at.
That's why we need each other.
Yeah.
You know, as humans, and I think a lot of people forget that, is that we're all designed to have flaws, so that we do need each other. And I think that the Success Journal allows you to focus on those positives so that you can go out and do that, and then be willing to go find people and be around people that are going to uplift you in your weaknesses, like you were just talking about. And that's a hard thing to do, because I think we all struggle mentally with, we're programmed to believe that failure means bad.
Yeah.
It means you're no good type of thing.
Right.
And it's not allowed, type of thing.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
It should be a learning situation. Yeah. And, for me, I'm a believer. And so in those situations, it's very hard when you're really upset and angry and you kind of feel like you're going down the spiral, which we have brain hacks for that as well when you're spiraling. But trying to say out loud, like, what is God trying to teach me in this situation? Yeah. And that's what I try to do, even when I'm upset, because most of the times when you're handling those struggles, it was given to you for a reason. Yep. And so you need to push through that, but then focus on the things that you're doing right in those scenarios. So, like, how can I be better in this scenario? And then write it down when you've done it. Yep. And that's going to help you get towards that, being able to handle struggles better, you know? So.
And it's also biohacking, because I have a friend another biohacker, who really does diligent of, recording the food and everything. So then, and he's trying different things all the time. So then when stuff isn't working, then he goes, okay, well, this backfired on me. So what does work? He flips back the pages to look at what did work in the past. Then he gets back on track by doing that stuff. And then he starts a new experiment. So it's a record as well. And we can look back on it. And when we're feeling crummy someday, or we're feeling defeated, flip backwards in those pages and look at your accomplishments. We forget our accomplishments. We remember our failures and we forget our accomplishments. The brain is wired for that too. And this is another way to turn that around and start to move the other direction, to focus on the successes to make it easier to move forward. And this particular brain training technique is found in the author brain type, the defender brain type, the detective, the general, the guru, the innovator, the president, the revolutionary, and the visionary. Wow. So that's crazy how many brain types this one is. So people watching this, chances are it's going to be an amazing technique to do.
It's
Start
incredible
doing.
already.
Yeah.
Already. And I think for me, because one of my things also is a grateful journal,
Yeah.
I just love to write, which is why I'm probably the author.
Yeah, right.
So, but I love to write. And so it's been just helpful for me in the matter of a week. And that is so crazy. And it's really incredible. I think everyone should just give it a shot. And something that you said was about tracking. And it's like when you're journaling, it is tracking because you can go back and you can look at your journal entries and all those different types of things. And tracking is so powerful because it's data. Because if you look at all the things that are going on today, like social media and this, that, and the other thing, and the reason why things are so successful is because they've collected data to see what works and what doesn't. It's how everybody measures what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to do that and be consistent with it, which is the biggest challenge,
Yeah.
but being consistent with it, you will reap the benefits and then you will really see what your patterns are. And that goes for everything, tracking your finances, you'll see where you spend your money, you'll see where you are successful, you'll see where you're grateful, like what things you're grateful for, everything. So tracking is just so important.
Huge.
And I'm so glad that it applies to this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's huge. So tell people how you do it.
How I do a success journal?
Yeah.
I guess I just kind of list off like what I did for the day, and it doesn't have to be these monumental things. Like I said, it could be like making your bed or I made food tonight, or something that I've been really trying to nail down is getting ready, prepared for the night before so that I don't feel like I'm scrambling in the morning. And so I can just leave. And so I don't have to worry about it. And so when I prepare my stuff for the night, I'm like, I put everything out and I did it. Or I got to work on time, or just little things like that. And so that I literally just list, I do bullet points. I don't really write it in a journal form.
Yeah.
It's bullet pointed because I'm kind of a lister. I like to list things. I'm not like very wordy with everything. I can be sometimes if I'm really having a lot of feelings, but the majority of the time I just want to get it out of my head and get it onto the paper. And so I literally just do bullet points.
Yeah. That's good. I was curious when I ask people because they all do it differently. Now, the video on this technique gives some instructions on that, but it's not set in stone because everybody's different. So they'd have to do it how they need to do it. But what I tell people who there are some brain types that find it irritating to journal. You probably can't understand that. But
Brody.
they exist. And so in their case, what I tell them is two important things. One, just do one thing. Start with one thing every day. Two, if that's too hard or that's too irritating, then record things as they happen. Set your brain in the mode to notice success, things that you did right. Doesn't even matter how little it is. It could be making your bed. And then you open up your notes in your phone section or in your schedule of your phone. You're just type it in. Just type in a bullet point.
Yeah, it's easy as texting.
And then you can enter it into your journal, which needs to be handwritten.
Yeah.
Not on your phone, but that's just as a placeholder so you remember at night to write it in. And night is the best time within 90 minutes of going to sleep for your brain wiring. So then your brain rehearses it the max amount of time while you're asleep.
See, that's really good that you said that because it can be irritating for people and there is a segue, but it is very important to write these things down because there's a difference when you're typing something, versus writing something down.
Yeah.
And it really transcribes in your brain a lot different.
Yeah.
And so even though it's irritating, so is eating healthy.
Yep.
But you have to do it in
Yeah.
order to reap the benefits
Yeah.
of what you're desiring. Working out's irritating, not convenient.
Yeah.
It's not something that, you desire to do all the time. But we were just talking about how growth is getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so doing things you're uncomfortable with should give you, actually, that would be something to write in your grateful journal, or no, your success journal is, I wrote down stuff and I was uncomfortable doing it. And that's a win for me.
Yeah.
So just something like that. But yeah, I think that the writing it in the calendar or even like writing it in notes
Yeah.
is a great way to kind of segue and then just copying it when you're done with the day. I think that's really great.
Yeah. Love it. And if you want to find out if you're one of these brain types, well, you're going to be. I mean, there's 16 brain types, and you're going to fall into at least one of them. You go to braintype.me, and then you can take the test and find out your brain type. And most people get two brain types. They get a primary and a secondary. And some people just get a primary. Depends on how the test goes. And it's neither good nor bad. It just is, because everybody's different. But go to braintype.me, check it out, take your test, and find your superpowers, including your custom brain training techniques. There's half a dozen brain training techniques that's for your brain type that are going to really target actually rewiring your brain into giving you those superpowers. Good stuff.
So
Yeah. Boom.
goes the dynamite.